The main message that I want the listeners to have when it comes to APS is that we care. We care about our students' outcome and we care about their success because we always view it as their success translates to our success.
How can a set of skills lead you down the path to success? That's what we're setting out to answer on the EdUp Canada Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Sangster. Join me as we unpack how leaders around the world have taken training and skills and turned that into a lasting career. Now let's learn together. Welcome back to the EdUp Canada Podcast. I'm Michael Sangster, your host, and I'm joined today by Jason Chu, the Director of Operations at AAPS Career College, and he's going to give us a little bit of background on the college, his own role. What is AAPS?
Yeah, that's actually a very common question. First of all, thank you for having me here, Michael, and it's a pleasure to be on your podcast. My name is Jason Chu. I am the Director of Operations here at AAPS College of Health, Science, and Technology, formerly known as the Academy of Applied Pharmaceutical Sciences. So that's where the AAPS comes from. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to introduce it that way, because it's a bit confusing, right? But that's what branding's like. You got to make the move slowly, right?
That is absolutely right. We actually did the rebranding officially just earlier this year in 2026.
Takes a while, and you're known for your old branding. How long has the college been around?
The college has been around since 2003. So 23 years, moving on to 24th. Yeah.
You look good. You don't look that old.
Well, I wasn't the one who founded the college. So our friend, president and dean here, Ms. Lolly Bagash, she founded this back in 2003, and I joined back in 2015. And she was able to poach me away from the pharmaceutical industry to join the career college side, and I'm glad I did. It's been 12 short years, it seems, but here we are.
Let's dive right in, because you guys are kind of unique. You are offering postgraduate diplomas where students come in the front door of their career college already having a bachelor degree in many cases, correct?
That is absolutely correct, yes.
We always talk about the fact that our colleges are quick and nimble, train people quickly to get them back to work and start a career path. Your role is slightly different.
It is slightly different from other career colleges, but the mission is still the same. It's still to be quick and nimble and to get our students into the industry. And maybe a little bit of context helps, because not a lot of career colleges are in this space. And in terms of what we do, we take on science graduates. So not just at the bachelor's level here, Michael. We also have students with masters, with PhDs, who are struggling to really transition from academia to the industry. And that's really been the mission since the founding of this college, is to bridge that gap between academia and the industry. The industry that we serve, which is pharmaceutical sciences, is quite complex from a regulatory standpoint. And that's not being taught at any even traditional colleges and university. And of course, a lot of our students that may have a medical background or pharmacy background from outside of Canada, they are also struggling to transition into a field of their own. So we serve both the students who are from our traditional colleges and university here, as well as some of the talent that comes from overseas to transition into a field like pharma sciences.
That's an interesting perspective. You give a chance to get back to work quickly, having come to this country. So it is very similar to our domestic learners.
That's right.
Which is the vast amount of students. So you've got, 8,000 students on campus on an annual basis?
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream one day, right? I think, on campus, we certainly have our state-of-the-art simulated laboratory. So that's where a lot of our students come through on our beautiful campus here in Toronto. We also have a campus in Mississauga. A lot of the topics that we do serve, they are virtual and then they are hybrid, just because the nature of this work in regulatory affairs and quality assurance, even clinical research, can be done remotely. So we try to simulate the environment that they'll experience out in today's industry.
Many of the students probably already working too, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So alumni, of course, through our rich history, they've gone on and have done great things in the field. And what's great about our college is that a lot of our alumni members, they're now managing directors and vice presidents in various pharma companies. they come back and reach out to us and support our students. So they would recruit our students for internships, for paid positions. And really through this network, we're able to sustain and help our students and the next generation through this system. Yeah.
So I was obviously being cheeky about the 7,000 or 8,000 students. Career colleges are much smaller, more intimate locations. I'm interested in a couple of things. First off, how many students do you think approximately you might have go through the institution this year? And what's the average length of program?
Those are great questions. So the average length of our programs are all less than 1 year. So anywhere between 6 months being our shortest postgraduate diploma program to about 11 months for the longest ones. And our goal is to get them through the door and get them into the field as quickly as possible. So we provide career support halfway through their journey here with us. So for some programs, 3 months into it, they're already looking for jobs and writing their resumes and really getting them out there as quickly as possible. For this year, right now, I think we're projecting to be anywhere between 600 to 700 students for the main postgraduate diploma programs. And then we also have other diploma programs and certifications that we serve as well.
Yeah, so why don't we get into some of the other programs, and we'll probably circle back to the main one, but some of the other programs that you're teaching, and what does the average kind of student look like?
Yeah. So, for example, we see a big shift into food and nutrition right now. So it seems to be quite a bit of demand for those even working in the food service industry and working in hospitality to have some sort of a food nutritional management background. And our F&M program, right now, our cohort's looking anywhere between 60 to 70 by the end of the year. So it's actually quite healthy. And, it's a newer stream for us. And that's actually part of our rebranding. Traditionally, we've been known as the pharma college, but the rebranding to health, science, and technology, that's what we're leaning towards right now. And we're leading with nutritional management just because it's seems to be a growing field. And we've been very fortunate to serve that community as well.
That is a good size for a new program to get up to 60 or 70, manageable. You can figure out what you're doing right, what you need to work on. How many instructors are on board or inside your college? And full-time and part-time, I assume, like most colleges?
Yeah. So on the full-time scale, we have about 8, whereas on the part-time roster, we probably have well over 30 plus. So part of our strategy here, Michael, is to really leverage industry professionals who actually work in the field. They live and breathe the industry. And it's important for us, especially in the pharmaceutical world, because our regulations we spoke about heard about regulations in our industry for career colleges, but in the pharma world, they're ever evolving and standards are ever evolving and best practices are ever evolving with technology and AI as well. So we like to use a roster of part-time instructors who are actively working in the field to then bring the best standards to our classrooms so our information is never dated, and I think that's part of being a career college is to be nimble and to be able to update our curriculum, as the industry changes as well.
How much time do your students spend with employers while they're in their studies?
Oh, that's actually quite an interesting question because depends on what your definition of employers are, because all of our instructors are employers. they work.
Okay, there's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they work in the field, they hire students. So already in the classroom themselves, they're speaking directly with an employer, understanding what that organization expects, what type of roles they have available. So through that connection already, they're directly interacting with an employer. Other than that, in terms of, outside of the classroom, I would say it depends on their job search efforts. Sometimes they're in their placements a bit earlier, sometimes they're in a bit later. But anywhere between, when they do get placed, anywhere between 15 to maybe 20 hours once they get that opportunity to work with an employer. And sometimes they get, towards the end of the program, they have a contract waiting for them once they finish as well. So that's sort of the familiarity, the advantage that they have, having familiarity with the instructor, working with them on a day-to-day basis. So that question is a little bit interesting for me to answer just because we deal with employers all the time.
It's a little different from some of the other colleges where there's a set amount of hours. Yours is more about the interaction in the classroom every day. But I do notice from your site and from our conversations, you've got a long list of employers that are hiring your graduates. Are they at the front door waiting?
Yeah. So what's interesting is we always hear from students that there aren't enough jobs available. But then on the other end, our career services team, when we reach out to employers, they tell us they don't have the right talent. Whenever they put up a job posting, they do have 500 to 600 applicants, but as you probably know, 90 to 95% of those applicants are not what they're looking for. So they prefer to work with us because we streamline the process for them. We show them resumes that are relevant, and they get to pick and choose. They get to interview who they want. And there's no pressure on our end to get them to hire any one of our student. And I think that's part of the fair process, is to make sure that they select the candidate that they want, so that our relationship becomes sustainable in the long run. We're not going to force a candidate to their organization, and then neither can we force a student to get into a role. They have to perform and also interview well for that position.
What I really liked about your site, when I dug into it preparing for today, was an interesting focus on the careers to explore, not the program to explore. You're actually showing people this is the outcome you're going to get if you go through one of our programs, not the outcome of you'll have an education in X.
Yeah, that is right. Yes.
And I thought that was a really good way of framing people's thinking around, if I'm going to invest my time, my money,
that's right,
in this program, then I really got to think about what I'm going to get out of it. And they've already, as you said, in many cases, they have already spent a considerable amount of time and energy and resources to get trained.
That is right. Yeah, that is right, Michael. So to give a little context, coming from a science background, and I think that's really where it stems from, from our president Lale, and also from my personal experience. We go through programs in chemistry, biology, pharmacology, but there aren't exact titles and roles that are just biologists, at least not as frequent here in Canada. Whereas if you were to look up quality control, you get dozens and dozens of positions. So our programs are named after the careers and the roles that are available out in the field, as a career college should. And I think that resonates with our audience, because they're not coming to us to learn about the basics of science. They're here to learn about what these roles are and what they do on a day-to-day basis and how to advance in that particular field. So that's a great observation. And that's actually our main focus, is to focus on the program, the title themselves.
And it lines up with our nano survey that we did last fall, and we'll be doing again this year, around graduate outcomes.
Yes.
And that over 80% of our graduates work in careers that are either closely or somewhat related to the training they did. And I always point out to people, the 71% of that 81 is careers that are directly related to their training. It's unheard of. And when I've had university people ask me about that, and college people ask me about it, going, we would kill for those numbers.
Yeah.
And it's because our training is shorter, nimbler, quicker, aimed at getting people a job, not just getting an education at times, right?
Yeah. So, I'm fortunate to be invited to various universities, from TMU to York to U of T. And they're starting to recognize that career college is an added value to their graduates, because, and professors will tell me bluntly that out of a class of 100, if you ask who wants to be a doctor, pharmacist, or dentist, pretty much everyone puts up their hand. But the reality is, probably about 3% of them will make it into those specialized professionals. Becoming a doctor and dentist is not an easy pathway for most students. And not only about grades, but also about their volunteer work and commitment outside of the classroom. However, there are a lot of professions that are fruitful and that has a long corporate ladder for them to climb, lucrative, and they don't know about this, because in the sort of the academic world, they don't really talk about what the industry requires. And that's where us, the career colleges, will come in and actually educate them on these career paths. And again, we're not talking about the programs themselves, but just the career paths in general. And so year after year, the various universities, they find this to be quite a value added. And we've quite a few students who joined us since, but a lot of students have then found their own pathway into the field because of these talks that we've been giving them about jobs in pharmaceutical industry and outside of the traditional medicine and pharmacy.
You become a real advocate for career colleges. This is kind of fun. You're only about 10 odd years or 12 years, you said, into the sector.
Yeah.
You are a big believer in the career college input, aren't you?
Yeah, I really am, because I believe that education and training should lead to an outcome, and I get, traditional colleges and university, they do have a role as well into building foundational skills and knowledge. But ultimately, the goal for most students is to land a secure job, to get their footing in the door, and to have a long career using skills that they develop during their training here. And I think, not speaking for just us here at AAPS, but for all career colleges, that really is our mission and goal, is to get our students into the field, to get them the job that they want. And our president always says this, this is the first time in their adult life where they're going to a school where they're not being forced to attend. Their parents are not forcing them to enroll. They voluntarily enroll into our programs, into our colleges, because they want that future. They want to get to that destination. I am a big advocate for career colleges and what we all do here at AAPS as well.
What's that student you remember that came in the front door? Is there one? I haven't met anybody in the sector that doesn't remember one. You don't have to name them.
Yeah.
But there's a story, or maybe it's an instructor that impacted you, that this is a great place for people to come.
There's so many stories that are just, as you're asking that question, there are so many stories that are flashing in my head right now. There are really two that stands out to me, and I'll give you sort of perspective for both. One of them is a PhD student from U of T who traditionally, what they do is they go through their bachelor's or master's, they do their PhD, and afterwards, really the option is to do a postdoc or to enter the industry. So for those who are not familiar, the postdoc system, it's usually you do research for a professor based on the funding that they have available at the time, and maybe you do 1 or 2 years of postdoc, and hopefully you then apply to become an assistant professor. But the challenge there is, there's only limited opportunities to become a professor, in a Canadian or even an American university. That pathway becomes very difficult. And oftentimes what happens is a lot of the PhD students are then now overqualified for a lot of the entry-level positions. So I vividly recall the student coming to our campus and they've lost all hope. They have their PhD, they spent 6 extra years or 4 extra years, pursuing their PhD. And essentially they couldn't land a job in the field. And they were very proud of their, academic achievements, their publications, but they just couldn't get that first role in the field, that hurdle. And I just remember, walking them through, and I was in admissions at the time, or I did a little bit of admissions as well, just because I'm familiar with the university programs. And when, I explained to her the various pathways that she can, get involved in. And she was reluctant at first, but she actually tried a course. And then from a course, she then transitioned to an entire program. And within 3 short months, she already got a job offer because she had the right skills and keywords on her resume. And to this day, I still see her from time to time. And the industry is actually rather small in pharma. And I see her at conferences. And she's forever thankful for discovering our college and what we offer. And then she wishes more university students would have taken the same pathway. And for her, it's been life-changing because a lot of her colleagues who got their PhDs, they ended up getting out of science, and she's the only one who stuck with it. And now she's a regulatory director in the field. So that's a true success story from a domestic student. There are dozens of stories I could share when it comes to newcomers to Canada. And very similarly, their path is, may sound different, but it's actually very similar. This particular student I'm thinking of, he spent years studying medicine and practiced medicine overseas for about 10 years, for over a decade. So this was a mature student. And of course, the lure of, coming to Canada and be able to use her skills and to work in the medical field was, a dream of his. But unfortunately, the examination process, the cost, it just was not, at least within reach currently for him. And he had a friend who went through our program who also was a medical doctor as well, to recommend him to check out AAPS. And through a conversation, he was well educated, very knowledgeable, and clearly someone who cares for their patients. And we explained to him, hey, you can actually use your skills towards a new profession like clinical research, where you still interact with patients and you still need to utilize your medical background and experience. And surely enough, that program is 11 months. And I think halfway through the program, he had an internship. And as soon as he finished with his program, companies were already lining up to sign him on just because of his background and because of his training here. And I think that's exactly what the industry looks for here in Canada, is those with a medical background, but also with a bit of knowledge on the regulatory side in this particular field. So he's, again, another success story. And we actually had him speak at our graduation a few years ago. And, he was very motivational for our new alumni as well. And just to see how his career has taken off since. And I believe he's a medical director at one of the leading clinical research organizations here in Toronto as well. It's a great success story on our end. Yeah.
Let's get a little personal now. I think it's important we get those long stories about the different students, the different people you affected, the international trained individuals that have come through your college to get back into work, which I think is really important. We all know those stories. Talk to me about you, a mentor in your life. We always ask people to talk about someone who mentored their life with a quick little story about why it was important. We think it's a really important part of education and why our career colleges are so successful, because it's small classrooms, little opportunities to mentor and help people. Talk to me about somebody who shaped you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Michael. So throughout my life, I've various mentors, whether it's on financial literacy, whether it's on work ethic. And when it comes to, what I'm doing right now, sort of in this space of, what we're doing is really more than just training and education, is mentorship, right? So, I would say, of course, my president, Dean Lawley, and I'm sure she will listen to this later on, definitely been a big mentor of mine. Her vision and just her tenacity in terms of, and really just unwavering in terms of her vision, her goals. To tell you a quick story, I remember during COVID, during the lockdown, as we all remember, we had to quickly transition from in-class learning to virtual learning to continue serving our students. And at the time, there was a lot of unknowns. We don't know how long the lockdown was going to be. We didn't know whether or not the students would take on online learning. But she asked me how long would it take to properly onboard all of our instructors, our students, and get everything set up on our LMS. And I told her realistically, maybe it'll take about a week to 2 weeks and to get everyone on board. And her response to me was, no, I'll give you 3 days to sort this out. And it's not because she wants to push us to get back to work right away. It's rather, she understands that our students, they're looking to get into the field as quickly as possible. They can't take a week or two off. And especially during this time when nothing else is going on, we are really the source of, for lack of a better term, entertainment for our students to give them something to focus on during those times. So from that experience, I realized, her, and anyone who's met Lolly probably knows this, when she wants something done and she gets it done right away. And I think that's actually very important, because it really drives home, what our goals and missions are, to give that sense of urgency. And that's kind of what we preach with our team here. So in terms of a mentorship from that perspective, that impacts our day-to-day work, I would say Lolly is definitely up there. But I definitely had a lot of great professors and instructors who inspired me as an educator to make sure that, it's not just about memorizing what's in the textbook, but how to actually apply it and why those concepts are important. And that's how we derive our content as well. We're not going to teach our students anything that's just noise, but rather, what is it going to be useful during their interview process? What's going to be useful on a day-to-day role? And I think those mentors from an education standpoint are just as important as well.
I think you kind of answered the next question, but give me a little bit of something on a skill that's made you successful, or maybe I'm going to turn it around on you today, not about you. A skill that a student leaves your college with that gives them a chance of being successful. There's something you're always pushing the students on.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is a skill that I learned or it's just by nature, but I think empathy is a very important skill. Empathy in terms of understanding what the other side is looking for, understanding what the other person wants. The way we coach our students as well is, they're looking for a job. We get it. You want to build a career, but what value can you bring to the employer? So think of it from that perspective. So if you want to be the candidate that gets selected ultimately, you need to ask the right questions in terms of what is it that you can bring to the table for the employer, and think about it from their perspective. And this is the same skill that I use on a day-to-day basis with our staff, with our instructor as well. Understanding, especially from the admissions team, understanding who these students are and where they're coming from. Why should they take this program, or why shouldn't they take this program? That's also important as well, given their background and experience. We don't want to just take on a student just because they want a diploma. We want someone who wants to actually land a job and start a career in these fields, right? So having that empathy, understanding, what is it that they need, and then being able to offer them a solution, right? Whether it's with us or another college down the road, whether it's this program or that program, but really truly listening and having empathy. And I think our students are learning that as well. When they work with their supervisors and managers, having a bit of empathy certainly goes a long way.
It's an important part of what comes out of career college training. Before we wrap up, we try and keep this under 30 minutes. Talk to me a little bit about something at your college. What is the last thing you want to get across? Why is your college such a special place for people to be?
I think the main message that I want the listeners to have for when it comes to APS is that we care about our students' outcome, and we care about their success, because we always view it as their success translates to our success. Without our students and our alumni making an impact in the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry, there wouldn't be APS. And the medication that, Michael, I'm sure you have relatives and family yourself. We all use medication in one form or another. They're manufactured here in Canada. And the quality of it can impact, whether it's your son, your daughter, your nephew, your nieces, your grandparents. So the work and the quality that you do matters, and caring about your work matters, because if you have a bad batch of Tylenol, it's going to impact hundreds of thousands of Canadians. So caring about your work, not just here at the college, but caring about it once you're out there in the field, especially in the pharma world where you're manufacturing life-saving medication, matters. So I want people to remember that APS as a college, as a take-home message, we care. That's the bottom line. We just care about the health of our industry, and we care about our students overall.
I wanted to have you on for a couple of reasons. One, I think your college is spectacular. Looking forward to coming back, seeing it soon. But our sector, there's so many misconceptions about the regulated career college sector in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
We filled up you filled up one of my favorites. You filled the country with international students. You were puppy mills, diploma mills, colleges above massage parlors, where we were really 4.4% of the international students in the year when all that noise hit, but we took 99% of the blame.
That's right.
So there was one public college in Ontario that brought in more students that year and has now been taken over by the government.
That's right.
That brought in more students by 12,000 than our sector had across 500 plus institutions in Canada.
That's right.
So there's all these misconceptions, but you'd be another one. We've got colleges that teach logistics and truck training across Canada. We've got noise right now, which is a misconception around our sector because it's not our members. And it's a lot of the legal colleges that have popped up and other stories in Ontario around trucking. But we've got healthcare colleges. We've got PSW colleges. We've got logistics, cyber, IT, accounting, all of these crucial programs that are training. But you're unique and different. And I don't think people realize that you're out there doing programs, postgraduate diploma programs, which I would argue are taking students who've gotten a great education at a college or university and now taking them into a career. You've taken internationally trained students who've come to this country, not students, internationally trained professionals who've come to this country, ready to work, and then you've given them a little bit of a bump up to give them a chance to go work.
That's exactly right.
There are more misconceptions about our sector than there are colleges in this country. I chuckle. I was last week at Willis College in Ottawa's 160th anniversary.
Wow.
This is a college that's older than Canada, a regulated career college. We all need to get out there and fight. And you're one of the good guys on that, telling the story and letting the message get through. So I wanted to thank you for coming on today, but I wanted to have you on and let you go a little bit and give the depth of the college and not back and forth like we do a little bit more, because it's really, really crucial the work your college does. And people need to understand that we have a role to play. And when there's challenges, we're happy to call them out and have those dealt with. But you're not one of those. You're a great institution. So please pass that on to the whole team. I already gave you a last chance. But is there anything else, a second last chance that you wanted to say before we go on?
Support career colleges. I think the sector right now, especially in this climate, needs a bit of guidance. But I think overall, the work that we do really, really makes an impact in the field. And I would argue that, I discovered career colleges because my first job in pharma at a great company, Canadian company at the time named Applicants, most of my superiors, management team, they themselves came from career colleges. And I wasn't aware that this industry existed until I started working in the field, and several of them actually came through AAPS as well. And that's when I realized that, traditional university graduates, many of my classmates were struggling because they were not aware of career colleges. I think we could all do, as career colleges, we can do a better job in terms of advocating and promoting our industry, putting ourselves out there, especially when it comes to high school graduates and university graduates. So they know that there's a pathway to get into the field. And as we both know, with the youth unemployment rate right now, it's on an all-time high or near all-time high. I think if they knew that there are career colleges that could get them in the field within months, they'll jump right on the opportunity. But it's our job to get out there and really promote this message.
And it's our job to also talk about the great careers that are available out there, to go do things. I've did a podcast series. We did 19 interviews with sailors on board the HMCS St. John's as they were sailing over to serve in the Mediterranean. And we talked about the multiple careers and the pathways they've had, which I was blown away.
Yeah.
How IT people can go work as an operation, a sonar operator, a weapons operator. So many opportunities on side of one of these, on side of naval ships and offshore. Great career paths, great pension, great early retirements, all kinds of amazing things. It's on us to also talk about these careers. That's why I go back to, I'll finish up on this. That's why I go back to your site. It doesn't talk about the program. It talks about careers to explore, which I think is I want to know what a pharmacovigilance officer is. It's an interesting, I'd never heard that phrase, but okay, I get it. I can see where you're going here. And I did a little digging. So I want to thank you for joining us today, Jason. It's been good to get to know you over the past couple of years as well at different functions, and look forward to seeing you hopefully at the NAC event in the fall in Ottawa with your whole gang. And we will keep fighting and we will keep telling our story. And you talked about we need to do more of it. We have to. The fun part about it is that you're also busy running your colleges. You don't have a lot of extra time. There's no government funding, you're lean operations, and you've got to make every person work hard every day.
That's right.
And that leads to outcomes that are challenging in government sometimes because we're not out there. We don't have armies of people on our side. So I want to thank you, Jason, for your time today. Look forward to listening to this when it comes out in a day or two and getting together with you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jason. And with that, we'll end this week's edition of the EdUp Canada Podcast. Look forward to hearing you all. Not hearing you all, letting you all hear us again next week. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the EdUp Canada Podcast. We release new episodes regularly, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know when they are officially out. If you love this episode, please leave a 4- or 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts so that others can also discover how a set of skills can lead to success. Thanks for learning with us.